I just want to take a few minutes here today to go through GameStop's latest earnings report, third quarter 2024. We are now three-fourths of the way through 2024. Overall, I would say I'm personally satisfied with the report. Of course, you're more than welcome to disagree. I'm just here to share my opinion. But ultimately, net sales came in at 860 million. That was a little bit of an increase year over year for the same quarter. So if we go down here to net sales, we went from 798 million the prior quarter to 860 million this quarter, and we also saw another net profit of 17.4 million. That was in comparison to negative 3.1 million for the same quarter last year. And when you total these numbers up, it actually pretty much comes to zero. So it's going to work out to be whatever GameStop earns in Q4 as its net income will ultimately be its year total net income. So if we look at a situation where they earn 75 million on the bottom line, then their year total net income would be 75 million, and whatever that equates to in EPS would be the full year EPS, and they would be net profitable for the second year in a row. And it does appear that they are on track to do so, given that Q4 is historically their strongest quarter. And then when we look ahead here to SG&A, did see a slight increase from the prior quarter looking at Q2. And then when you look at last year, it did see a slight decline, right? So if you're looking at the same quarter last year versus this year, you're looking at a $14.5 million decrease. But if you look sequential quarters, you're looking at a slight increase of roughly $11 million. And then when we look at margins, they've been roughly the same, right? We see gross margin has crept up a little bit when we're comparing it to 2023, and it does appear on track that full year 2024 gross margin will be more than the 2023s, which is, I would say, a slightly positive sign. Although really I'm focused mostly on the operating margin. I really want to see them get that to be net profitable, right? In the green on the operating margin, because where you're getting the net margin right now is really the interest income. And for this particular quarter, the company had $54.2 million in interest income, which is great, but they do have to keep in mind that interest rates will be cut soon, and ultimately they do have to use that $4.6 billion in cash that they highlight, right? As you can see here, 4.616 billion at the close of the quarter. At some point or another, they do have to use that cash. However, if they have positive EPS and the strong balance sheet, they're really not in a position where they have to rush to make any moves in order to survive. They can take their time and ultimately take action where they see fit. And some people might want them to take action really soon, but they've pretty much just said without saying, at least in my opinion, we're going to make the right moves when we see the time is right. We're not going to rush. We're not going to do anything to just do it for the sake of doing it. We're going to do it when the opportunity is right and when we're ready to do so. And something they did in this quarter is they actually issued shares, right? So their first share offering, they did 3 throughout this year. May 24th, 2024, and then the next one was June 11th, 2024, and then the most recent one was September 23rd, 2024. But in this earnings report, they did say they don't anticipate any further at-the-market offerings involving the offer and sale of its common stock during the current fiscal quarter. However, you do want to keep in mind that the current fiscal quarter does end at the end of January 2025, so it's really only another month and a half. They're saying that they're not going to issue any shares, or at least they're not anticipating doing so. But beyond that, in the quarter, they added Nat Turner as a board member. He was appointed on November 18th. That came shortly after their announcement that they collaborated with PSA, and you can see now they're doing the grading. So GameStop is starting to do some different things. And I actually watched an interview with Nat Turner, and he basically said, and here's a picture of him if you're curious, he basically said GameStop came to them with the idea of implementing a grading service. And in that interview, he was also discussing how it's really a way for them to have large scale places, like a large scale of stores, right, for people to go into to send their cars in to be graded. Because a lot of people who are just getting started, such as myself in the grading game, right, like I have a few cards here I want to grade. Showed them on the stream yesterday, right? Just a few miscellaneous ones. Ultimately, I do want to get those graded, and I wasn't necessarily going to, but now that GameStop has the grading service through their store, it's something I'm willing to try, right? Whereas the more serious collectors, the people buying in massive quantity in terms of cards and reselling them, they're probably already going direct to PSA, and they're probably not really interested in going through GameStop. But for new collectors, I think it's absolutely a great thing, and I absolutely see the use case for it. And it will be interesting to see if more comes of this. They're also leading into some other things. They launched Mod Retro, GameStop exclusive. Also, you got the Raptor 8 mobile controller, and then you got CandyCon, which is a private label brand. These two, these two things right here, not necessarily in this quarter, but just kind of some things they've done throughout the year. PSA was really the big thing for Q3. And also a new board member. It's the first time they've added a board member since 2021. And then really beyond that, I just want to see them keep driving forwards, keep doing all the little things right. And when you look at SG&A, I don't really see a world where they can continue to cut this very much more. You can see from 2022 through 2024, they really made a conscious effort to just cut overhead costs. However, you can only do that for so long. And in my prediction up here, you could see I was aiming for 252 million. Of course, 2020 hindsight, right? It's easy to have hindsight and be 2020, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's a situation where they probably had to spend a little bit more on the PSA stuff. So maybe that was a factor. Of course, we don't know for sure, but ultimately, I think if they can maintain SGA at this level, they're in pretty good shape. So let me know what you guys think. I would say overall, I'm happy as long as they're turning a net profit. Ultimately, they do have to turn growth back on in terms of the top line, but for the time being, if they just grow the bottom line, I would say I'm satisfied. So thanks so much for watching. Have a good day.